just a disclaimer, the presentation is for informational use only, not meant to be a substitute for professional medical device diagnosis or treatment. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Jill Ballashaw. I've been owner of the clinic, or I opened the clinic back in 2008. So we're going on our 11th year, which is very exciting. And from the beginning, this is one of the things that we've always done is offered presentations for the community to educate on hot topics and things you might not hear or gets really confusing in the world. So one of the things we do is nutritional therapy, which is using whole food supplements, herbs, homeopathics to support physiology and promote healing. And of course, I'm a chiropractor. I'm a graduate of Palmer College of Chiropractic. So the goal is to help you understand what keto is, why it's good for you, and how to do it. But I'm going to put this part in here. The purpose of the presentation is to debunk a lot of the garbage that's out there, to teach you the science of ketosis, to teach you about your own physiology, which will allow you to sift through the mounds of garbage that's out there on keto. And I want to give you the knowledge and power to control your own health, which is one of the most amazing things I believe about keto and ketosis. And so what do I get out of this? I get healthier patients, and I get a true wellness clinic, and that's much more exciting than the revolving door of people who are sick and can't get results. And it also allows me to go deeper with patients. So with the help of my trusty sidekick over here, we not only are able to deal with more physiological stuff, we are able to start to dig into the emotional stuff, the traumas, and that kind of thing. And it's all layered in there, but if we can't get past the first layer, it gets really frustrated and people tend to give up. So that's one of the main reasons this topic, I think, is so exciting. So Hippocrates is known for saying our food should be our medicine and our medicine should be our food. And I could not think of anything that's more appropriate than the keto diet. It's truly giving us medicine with our food. So what is the keto diet? This comes from the Charlie Foundation. Charlie Foundation is, we'll talk about them a bit more, but the Charlie Foundation is the epicenter of ketosis and understanding keto is used as a therapeutic force. So they say it's a way of eating that mimics the effects of fasting. By consuming a high diet in quality fats, adequate protein, and low in net carbs, the body begins to utilize fat as its main source of fuel rather than carbs. So that's really the crux of the keto diet. So the shift to the fat burning has a profound effect on metabolism for both sick people and healthy people. And the diet has shown evidence for improving or reversing many neurological conditions and metabolic disorders. And for the healthy, the diet represents a tool for preventing chronic disease and optimizing cognition and body composition. So I believe the keto diet is a way for us to let go of the fear of cancer, the fear of Alzheimer's, the fear of degenerative diseases. So that's where I think the power truly lies, not just when you hit your weight goal. It's truly the anti-aging way to live. So what is ketosis? So ketosis is a byproduct of the breakdown of fat into usable energy called ketone bodies, or ketones for short. The fat can be derived directly from the food we eat or from our adipose tissue that's stored around the body. Ketones are used directly by the body to power itself. It is the source of fuel. So the breakdown of fat into useful energy is similar to the process that dietary carbohydrates undergo in producing glucose. So ketones are to fat what glucose is to carbohydrates. You either burn carbohydrates and make glucose, or you burn fat and make ketones. There's no other way to move about, right? The body doesn't do any other process to make fuel. So ketosis is defined as having blood ketone levels greater than 0.5 millimolars per liter. So, is it a fad diet? Well, it's probably the least fad diet. It has been around since 1923 when Dr. Russell Wilder was developed it at the Mayo Clinic for the treatment of epilepsy. And that's really where the Charlie Foundation comes into play. They took over that work and expanded on it. So it has been around since 1923. So if people suggest that it's a fad diet, maybe point them to that website because they've got a lot of great information. And when children suffering with epilepsy and people with neurological conditions, it's certainly not a fad diet to them. So we're going to talk about why we need fat, why we have lost our way in this low-fat, no-fat society. So the brain is made up of about 60 to 70% fat. Every cell in the body is wrapped in that lipid layer, fat layer. Every membrane in the body requires fat to stay healthy. So the trans fats are what has caused a lot of the heart disease in the country, because the trans fats will attach to the cell wall and they don't leave. And so some of the research going on now is that we might have to do a chelation type process to actually get trans fats to finally leave the body. So every time you think of eating a trans fat, that's your deep fried Twinkies at the State Farm, right? Or at the State Fair. Sorry, State Farm. Eating those deep fried Twinkies, right? That's all trans fats going into your system and they never leave. We haven't figured out truly how to get them to leave yet. So that's number one reason to stay away from trans fats. But we have to get the good fats, and I think the baby went out with the bathwater with the trans fats and margarine, of course, the chemical companies and the pharmaceutical companies and that kind of thing. We really lost our way. We need to be eating the way our great-grandparents ate. Not even our grandparents anymore, it's our great-grandparents. So our physiology is really designed to derive most of our energy from fat. So when we think about the paleo diet or the primal diet, really this is the paleo primal diet. What would we do? We'd go out and hunt, we'd kill, we'd gorge ourselves on meat and fat, and then we wouldn't eat for several days until everybody started getting hungry again. And that brain turned on and went into hunting mode, right? I'm fasting, my brain is sharp, I'm tight, I have to kill the animal or we all starve, right? That is the primal brain, that is the primal diet, it is the paleo diet. It really has been mislabeled, I think. So, just to talk a little bit about fat structure, we've got saturated fat, we have monounsaturated fat, we have polyunsaturated fat. So the saturated fat has a carbon backbone, it's very stable, these are the best ones to cook from. They're easy to find because they're solid at room temperature. Lard. Do you remember your grandparents and great-grandparents cooking with lard? It's a good thing. My wedding cake was made with lard. I mean, it was the most amazing cake ever because my friend's grandmother only makes her cakes with lard. Fantastic. So lard, tallow, butter, coconut oil, anything that's solid at room temperature is one of your saturated fats. Monounsaturated fats, these are your olive oil, your nut oil, your avocado oil. These don't have a great to cook with, not great to cook with. Each one of them has their own smoke point. Avocado oil has a very high smoke point. You can cook with it, you can fry with it. Olive oil has a very low smoke point. So once you hit the smoke point, the oil breaks down. So you have to be very careful with the monounsaturated fats because you need to know which ones will actually break down quicker. So we don't want to cook with olive oil. That's a great one for salads. That's a great one to ingest raw. unsaturated fats gets these are most known for your fish oils, right? Your omega-3s, your omega-6s, which is usually black currant seed oils, and an omega-6. Omega-6s get the bad rap because we all think we need more omega-3s, but we still need omega-6s. We make our sex hormones out of omega-6s. The problem is we're getting junk omega-6s. So I tell you to tile the floor, it takes 20 boxes to tile the floor, but every time you open a box, 4 tiles are broken, right? You're gonna need more boxes to tile the floor. So I often recommend black currant seed oil for supplementation because we need those good, healthy omega-6s, and we always do it when there's endocrine or hormonal disorders because we just need the good omega-6s to make healthy hormones. Canola or rapeseed oil is also one of those, borage oil, and it's not my favorite. But those are polyunsaturated fats. Really don't cook with them. Those are, in food. Those are like food ones. And we all know fish is healthier if eaten uncooked, but then you get the parasite issue with the sushi, so, it's a thing. Okay, so the tenet of the keto diet is to really embrace the fat. When you add the fat back in, you don't need the sugar because the flavor comes back, right? When we took the fat out of everything, we had to dump it full of sugar and carbs just to get some flavor in there. So one of the things that will happen when you go onto the keto diet is your taste buds start to change. And pretty soon, you can't handle that same level of sugar because it makes your teeth hurt, right? So when you add that fat back in, you get so many more benefits, plus it makes it so much easier to get off the carbohydrates. We need all 3 types of fat, so don't think I'm only going to do saturated, or I'm only going to do polyunsaturated, or I'm only going to do monounsaturated. We need all 3. Unsaturated fats lower triglycerides, saturated fats increase HDL and LDL, and I think I actually have that backwards. Saturated fats lower triglycerides, unsaturated fats increase HDL and increase your LDL particle sizes. So, of course, we want to avoid the trans fats. So the benefits of the keto diet is what is getting the most press is the weight loss, right? And that's fantastic. I mean, last time I did a video, I was 30 pounds heavier. I actually have collarbones now. So weight loss, but it also lowers inflammation and improves cholesterol ratios, improves blood sugar handling, it gives you hormone balance, it improves your thyroid function, it increases your energy, improves your liver function, it improves your brain chemistry, so this is across the board. When we identify depression, anxiety, OCD, ADD, these are all disruptions in the brain chemistry, and it's so much easier just to eat properly and let the body figure out how much serotonin to make and how much acetylcholine to make, right? If we can't go in there and push buttons and levers and think that we're going to have it right. We're not going to have it right. We need to let the body do its job, and we need to give it all the fuel and all the fat it needs to do to make the proper brain chemistry. It also improves cognition. One of the funniest things was I get on the keto diet, and my husband would be like, now don't forget, we've got to do this. And I'm like, yeah, done it, did this, too, and that's it. He's like, ugh, jeez, you're so like razor sharp. I'm ready to hunt, right? That's what I'm doing, I'm hunting, right? I don't need to be reminded to do things because I'm sharp as a tack. So, when people get afraid, like, oh, I'm getting old-timers, is that the old-timers, right? Right? Or you walk through a doorway and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing in here, right? That's funny for a while until it starts happening all the time, and it's really freaking you out, right? What's the most scary thing? Alzheimer's is way scarier than cancer, I think, for people losing your mind. So, fantastic way to keep things sharp. It's anti-aging. One of the great benefits, especially for diabetics, is wound healing. So diabetics tend to have a lot of trouble healing wounds, especially in their extremities. And the keto diet does fantastic things for that. Also improves sleep because, of course, we're improving brain chemistry. Now, the conditions that have been shown to show improvement with keto, I have cancer on there twice because it's that important. Diabetes, autoimmune, cancer, heart disease, polycystic ovarian syndrome, so that's been a rise. Polycystic ovarian syndrome is a blood sugar disorder and an adrenal disorder. So they just pump them full of metformin and say, I don't know if you ever have a baby, right? It's just blood sugar. Migraines, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, epilepsy, traumatic brain injury. So all these soccer players and football players and hockey players with the CTE, right? They need to be on keto. They absolutely need to be on keto. Crohn's disease, multiple sclerosis, ALS, ADD or ADHD, autism, depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. There's a movie on Netflix called The Magic Pill. And for every parent who isn't sure how they're ever going to get their kid to eat good or eat keto, right? You need to watch that movie, because there's a kid on there with a little girl on there with autism, and they just said, just suck it up, man. She'll eventually eat. She'll eventually eat. It took her 5 days. She finally stuck that fork in a steak, and that was the end. No more goldfish, no more macaroni and cheese, no more garbage, and her behavior became transformative. So it's a really cool little documentary on looking at somebody with cancer, somebody with autism, and then a lady with just kind of chronic fatigue, chronic pain. Really cool little movie there. So what keto diet is not, it's not an excuse to eliminate vegetables. You cannot eat buckets of cheese and dairy and think you're being healthy. You are not being healthy. I just did it to my husband because I was dying for a pizza. I did 2 hours in the elliptical and I was like, dang it, I'm gonna have a pizza. So I made a keto crust and I literally used like 2 pounds of mozzarella. And then that night he's like, I don't feel very good. I was like, yeah, I probably should have given you some enzymes, sorry. But just to make that clear, it's not okay. It is not the Atkins diet and it's not the paleo diet, which we'll talk about next. And it is not dangerous. There are very few genetic disorders that can't do keto, right? So if you have a genetic disorder, you have to make sure that this is one that you can still process fat. It is a small fraction of the population that may not be able to do it. This is how our physiology is designed to eat. So this is just a little quick thing on the difference between paleo, Atkins, and keto. The big difference between Atkins and keto is Atkins does not promote high fat, and they don't restrict protein. And so we'll talk about that next. And paleo allows root vegetables and quinoa and a lot of things that are really high in carbohydrates. So paleo can get up to 150 carbohydrates a day. Atkins can be 20 to 100 depending on what stage you're in. And keto is really, you're kind of hanging around 20 to 30 depending on the person. So some of the myths, saturated fat does not cause heart disease. What they're actually seeing now is the saturated fat will actually go in and emulsify fat that's stuck to the inside of the arteries. Because when you heal the artery, inflammation no longer needs to poke holes in it, and you don't get the fat deposits and the calcium deposits and the scabs on the inside of the arteries. And all that healthy saturated fat is very healing, and it'll actually pull the fat off of the arteries. Amazing stuff. And fat does not make you fat. It has never made us fat. Sugar and carbs are what makes us fat. It is the only thing that makes us fat. And then, so here's the big miscommunication, the big scary thing that most everybody has either, if they've done keto, they've had this thrown in their face. Ketosis is not ketoacidosis. Acid, bad. Ketosis, ketoacidosis. Ketoacidosis is high ketones, high glucose. Ketosis is high ketones, low glucose, right? Ketoacidosis is in late stage diabetes. Ketosis is a healthy, normal state, and you can stay in it for years and years if you'd like to. I would also like to bring up Miss Jillian Michaels. I'm sorry she has my name, right? This woman is so aggravating. She is not a doctor, she is not a nutritionist, she is not a dietitian. She sells her own line of supplements, fat-burning supplements, of course, right? She holds no degree of any kind in any topic at any level. She said total of 4 certificates, 2 in personal training, 1 certificate in nutrition and wellness, not even just nutrition, nutrition and wellness, and 1 certificate in kettlebells. So this is the person they're putting on the Today Show to dissuade you from doing keto. And Al Roker, good job, telling her what's what. So don't listen to this crazy woman. She has participated in and perpetuated that Biggest Loser and what they did to those people for the sake of television. 10 years she did this, putting their health at risk, putting their lives at risk for the sake of ratings. So she gets ratings, but she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. I'm sure she is a great trainer, but she is not a dietitian and she's not a nutritionist and she doesn't know what she's talking about. She has no training in physiology whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. This is why I want you to give you the information so when these things come at you, you can go, well, that doesn't sound right. That doesn't match the science. And if you're confused or questioning, go to the Charlie Foundation. They are the ones that know everything. So, moving into ketosis. So phase 1 is what cleans the sugar out of your blood. So you're in phase 1 for about 4 hours after a meal. This is the body using what you've eaten for energy, moving it to all the places it needs to go. Phase 2 is 4 to 12 hours after your last meal. So most people will get into phase 2 overnight, unless they're getting up at night and having a snack. But phase 2, this is where the liver clears itself of excess sugar. The diets or the proponents of the people saying 6 small meals a day never allow you getting into phase 2. And it is a symptom management strategy for people with blood sugar instability. I understand why it's done, right? I used to have severe blood sugar instability, and I'll tell you what, I ate every 2 hours because it was the only way I could manage my symptoms. But we don't want to manage our symptoms that way because it never allows us to clear our liver. So, we're going to use that to get us past that. We don't have to eat every 2 to 4 hours, and we allow that liver to actually clear. So phase 3 is when you first produce ketones in the liver. And that can be 24 hours after fasting or 1 to 3 days on the keto diet. So we'll talk about kind of tracking that and how to measure that. The liver is the first organ to adapt to ketosis, and it's the first one to use ketones as fuel. The rest of the organs are still using glucose. Phase 4 is now muscle and fat cells are now dependent on ketones, and then the brain starts to come into play. And then phase 5 is keto adaptation. So that's, you've been in ketosis for a while and your body has started to say, oh, okay, she's serious, right? We're really doing this. Everybody better get on board. And so keto adaptation really allows you to start to live, right? You're not so fragile. You're not having all different symptoms. You're really experiencing quality of life. So there's a big word that gets kicked out called gluconeogenesis. Don't be scared of it. So gluconeogenesis is just the production of glucose by the liver. So the liver makes glucose from proteins. So even if you stopped eating carbs, but but you ate 10 pounds of ground beef, you're still going to make sugar because the liver is going to take the protein and make glucose from it. That's why on the keto diet, different than the Atkins diet or the paleo diet, we don't say protein's a free-for-all because we understand the body's just going to trip over into making proteins out of the glucose, or glucose out of the proteins. So, in the keto diet, you really do have to watch your protein. Protein's moderate. It's not a free-for-all. So, it's the body's safeguard. So it's the ability for the body to make glucose. Sorry, not carbohydrates, from protein. This makes carbs a non-essential to the diet. So people who say you have to eat carbs, your brain needs carbs, they're so wrong. If you stopped eating carbs and just ate protein, your body would still make glucose and your brain would still burn glucose. When you give it an alternative fuel source, it will burn what it prefers, which is ketones. You're not going to die. There's no such thing as an essential carb. There's essential amino acids. There's essential fatty acids. Nobody's ever come up with essential carbohydrates. That's why. So, you have two fuel types. You have glucose, you have ketones. You get to choose which one you use. So those who have a stubborn liver, who complain that they can't lose weight on diets, they have a beer belly, and they always gain the weight back, this is why you probably have been put on a diet that's got more high protein. If your blood sugar unstable, this will be what has kept you from being successful. Paleo diet, I'm just like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I don't lose any weight. I just start to be like, I'm like super Hulk, man, and no weight goes off. I hated it. All right. So, how to get into ketosis. So, the fastest way is fasting. Do not fast if you have blood sugar instability. You will probably tear somebody's face off. Right? People with blood sugar instability cannot handle fasting if they're too fragile. Don't do it. It's not worth it. You don't have to. But if you're like a crazy go-getter, that's going to be the fastest way to get into ketosis. So, the second way is the diet. High in fat, moderate protein, low carbs. And it'll probably take anywhere from 4 to 14 days to get into ketosis depending on how good you are about tracking and keeping your carbs low and all that kind of stuff. If you want to jumpstart, and this comes from Dr. Darren Schmidt. He's on YouTube. He's a doc in Ann Arbor. He's quirky and funny, and he's awkward, but he has great videos. They're short, and he's very to the point, and I love him. So you can do, day one, you do 2 avocados and 1 greens drink. So make sure it's high quality, there's no junk in there and whatever. We've got one out there if you need one, but just a greens drink. That means you're telling your body, I'm not starving, we're getting all the nutrition we need. And you have an avocado for breakfast, you have avocado for lunch, and you have a greens drink for dinner. That's day one, and then day 2 you begin keto. So that will jump you into ketosis quicker. What was that doctor's name? Dr. Darren Schmidt. He's the Nutritional Centers of Ann Arbor or something.
His videos are incredible.
Yeah,
they're really good. If you wanted like a way to get into this.
Yeah, they're very quick, but he actually had people from the Charlie Foundation come to his clinic and teach him and his staff. So it's they're really short and quick, but they're packed with information, and he's a good guy. So everybody always says, how do I get started? And every mentor I've had says, well, you've got to find what your own ratios are. And it drives me crazy. I don't know anything. Just tell me what to do, right? So we're going to give you a framework to work from, and then it becomes your job to find out about your own physiology. So the framework is 20 grams of net carbs a day. Net carbs are total carbs minus fiber. Protein, keep it less than 50 grams per day. And fat over 130. So what I've discovered is absolutely positively cannot go over 20 grams for me. I absolutely positively cannot get more than 40 grams of protein a day, and I'm better at 30. And I absolutely need to be over 150 grams of fat a day. And I find out because every morning I step on the scale, and if I'm on target and doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I will drop a half a pound a day. And if it stops, I'm like, oh, I guess I couldn't do that, right? So you start to know yourself. It's so powerful when you're like, oh, nope, gotta crank that back up, or it's Christmas. Right? So you do need to test your glucose and ketones a day, especially in the beginning. This is your learning phase. You do need to track every day. You need to know what you're eating. You need to know what your macros are. This is the arduous part. You have to do the work in the beginning to learn your physiology so that you can then learn how you function so that you're not doing this for the rest of your life. This is not a life sentence. This is you learning how your body works best and then able to move on with your life, eating healthy for the rest of your life, and just understand. Sometimes I'm going to come off of it. Sometimes there's a wedding. Sometimes your mom sends you Christmas cookies. Sometimes you go on vacation. You better believe in a week and a half I'm going to be eating everything New Zealand has to offer. Because I've done the work. I'm dropping pounds now. I'm going to look good for my vacation, and I'm going to enjoy it 100%. And then I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to get back on track. But eating food in New Zealand is probably not as poisonous as eating food here, so I'm probably going to be fine. Anyway, so if you aren't producing ketones or you aren't losing weight, and that's a goal. Some people do this and their goal is not to lose weight. So there's different tactics you can do to prevent weight loss or to slow weight loss, but still produce a lot of ketones. So we're going to get into that a little bit. One of them is you're trying to not lose weight. You do the binge, like I went hunting, I eat tons of protein and fats, and then I fasted for a couple of days, right? That prevents that weight loss because people who are hunter-gatherers don't really want to lose weight. Okay, so tracking. This is my favorite little guy because it's all in one. And I am all about all in one. So this monitor does both ketones and glucose in the same monitor. You do really have to stick your finger twice, which is not always fun first thing in the morning, but you want to test fasting glucose and fasting ketones in the morning. And if you've tracked your food the day before, and your ketones aren't up, or they've gone down, and your glucose has gone up, something bad happened yesterday. And you need to figure out what it was. And what I figured out was, I was like stalled at like 0.5 ketones. I'm like, this sucks, I'm working my butt off. What is going on? Well, you're supposed to be able to eat berries on the keto diet. When you're fragile blood sugar, you can't have berries. I cut off the berries, my ketones jumped up, my glucose dropped down. So that's what I had to learn about me. I can't even do a lemon slice in my stinking water, right? That's how fragile I am. That's okay, I will get better. This is not a life sentence, but if I don't know that and I keep eating the berries and I'm not losing weight and I don't understand what's going on, this diet doesn't work, right? That's where the struggle is. That's always my goal for people who are trying to control their body and control their weight and control their health. You have to learn about yourself. And if you can't take the time to learn about yourself, you will never solve this problem. There will never be a perfect diet. There will never be a perfect pill. There will never be a perfect supplement. There will never be a perfect gym or CrossFit or pray to God. Yeah, it's never going to happen, right? So, that's all I do in the morning. I stick my finger, I check my ketones, I stick my finger, I check my glucose. So, and then you get to play, you get to experiment. you get to see, I'm at I think this morning I was 2.7 ketones and my glucose was 88 or something. So now I get to know like what I ate today. Tells me what tomorrow morning is. So if I had a really good day and everything bumped up and my glucose went down, I was like, I feel success, right? And if I had a really bad day, I can still, if you have a bad day, still get on the scale, still prick your finger. It will teach you something. Hiding, sticking your head in the sand, it doesn't accomplish anything. It will at least teach you something about what happened yesterday and what it did to your blood, and what it did to your weight, so that you can make a better choice. So, my favorite app, everybody always asks this, and this came from Dr. Schmidt as well, thankfully. It's very hard with FitnessPal or some of the more common ones to track macros. So the chronometer actually does probably the best job of tracking macros. You can go in and program what your targets are. And then you can, it has a UPC scanner, it has a whole library, there's even some of our good fat bars in there now. So you can search for things and pop them in, and you can make favorites. And so after about the first week, you kind of know what you typically eat, and it's less arduous to kind of plug everything in. So, but that's going to teach you I think I ate a lot of fat today. Oh, I'm at 75. Crap. I better get my macadamia nuts out. I gotta bump this up. So, the priority is to get your fats in first. And then it makes it easier to restrict your carbohydrates. If you're not eating your fats, you're not going to feel full and satiated. Let me tell you, if you're full of fat, eating carbs will make you feel sick. And so it's just a way to help you through it. So don't eat your carbs first and then be like, oh, I wonder how I'm going to get 130 grams of fat in a day. It won't happen.
Dr. Shaw?
Yeah.
The app, it also has some of the standard process supplements.
Oh, does it?
And then the other thing that's nice about the app is you can enter your recipes.
Oh,
And
fantastic.
it'll calculate how much per serving or for the full recipe.
Fantastic.
So you don't have to calculate that yourself.
Nice. Thanks, Malia. Maria's our resident expert. She does all of our experiments with cooking. I do not cook. Okay, so these are just some of the bigger dietary sources of fat. So if you're like, well, I don't know what to do, what do I eat, right? So coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, MCT oil, butter, heavy whipping cream, coconut cream, avocados, bacon, and then the nuts. I listed them as in order of fat. So macadamia nuts are your friend. They are your friend. But if you notice, almonds are pretty low in fat. So, and they're not doing anything good for the environment in California. So, you know, try to choose wisely. So, April made me put this in here. No, I'm just kidding. It's true. So, dairy is a great source of fat and often the go-to thing for people starting in keto because it's easy and everybody likes cheese. But if you cannot tolerate dairy, you cannot tolerate dairy. The end. There isn't any magical thing about keto that's going to allow you to tolerate dairy. So I have a mild problem with dairy, but I don't seem to have any problem with the butter or the heavy whipping cream or the really hard cheeses. So that's the ones where you're chiseling it off the block, right? Evidently I have a little problem with mozzarella, but anyway, you take your hits. So you have to be careful if you're sensitive to dairy. There's lots of great recipes that don't use dairy. You can be keto without being dairy. And if you eat it and you're not supposed to, you end up with a parasitic infection. And then you get pimples on your butt and pimples on the back of your legs, and your hair starts falling out, and you start having energy loss, and strange things start to happen. That's a parasitic infection. So you just pay the price. You know, I ate that pound of cheese and I went and got my parasites done because I knew it was going to happen. But parasitic infection, for some who are allergic to dairy, the parasites tend to go to the lungs. So there's a high correlation of people who are sensitive to dairy and who have asthma. Asthma is parasites in the lungs. So just pay attention to that. If you need alternatives to dairy, roast your girl. So, potential struggles. This is often what we hear with keto diet, my friend, blah, blah, blah. So, when you have eaten a standard American diet most of your life, it is not surprising that switching the body over will highlight some issues. So, we're going to go over the keto flu, we're going to go over constipation, we're going to go over hair loss, and we're going to go over probably the most important one is emotions. So, keto flu shows up at like headaches, fatigue, body aches, heart palpitations, nausea, depression. And the cause is the drastic reduction of carbs removes glucose from the blood, causing the body to dump water. And when the body dumps water, it also dumps minerals, and it also pulls hydration. We need this to happen. It is not a bad thing. The problem is we need to replenish the water and the minerals. When you go on keto, you must have minerals. That is the crux of the keto flu. It isn't any mysterious thing. It is a loss of minerals. So, water molecules attach to sugar molecules. So if anybody carries excess water in their bodies, if they swell easily, if we do a body composition and their water's way high, it's all carbs. It's all sugar in the blood. So we've got to get that out. So excess glucose in the blood results in thousands of excess water molecules outside of the cell. So when we do the body composition test assessment, we're looking at intracellular water versus extracellular water. High intracellular water can be like 60 to 70%. That means most of the water is inside of the cell, and there's some outside of the cell. When cells die, they bust open and release the water. So the higher the extracellular water goes, the closer you are to death. And we can actually predict death when extracellular water gets about 20%. Or when intracellular water gets down to 20%. The cells are just busting open faster than the body can repair it. So we need to get rid of the excess water, because excess water is always outside of the cell. And people say, when you go on keto, you just lose water weight. Yes, right, exactly. We have to get rid of the water first before we can ever get rid of the fat. And getting the water weight off the body decreases blood pressure, right? Who doesn't want that? Flushes the kidneys. It does all these amazing things. Yes, I lose water weight, thankfully. It's not the bad thing. So, cures for the keto flu: salt, and make sure it's colored. Gray, pink, Celtic. You should see something in there, black or pink or granules or something. It should not be pure white. Pure white is just bleached. You might as well eat white flour because it's about the same health benefits. So salt feeds kidneys and the adrenal glands. Salt helps to move water inside of the cell. Your sodium, your processed foods, your carbs all cause high blood pressure and heart disease. Salt does not do this. Sodium does it, not salt. NaCl is what causes high blood pressure, because you stripped it of all minerals and now you only have 2 molecules. So gut flora is actually salt tolerant. That's why they say to replenish your gut flora, you eat fermented foods, which are all soaked in salt water. The salt protects the good flora from dying and allows us to replenish the good flora. We also need calcium, magnesium, potassium. And you can also prevent the keto flu by starting really slowly and gradually increasing fats and decreasing carbs. So, you don't want to suffer at all. So constipation is very, very common, but constipation is a symptom of a not healthy functioning gallbladder. So if the gallbladder is not functioning well, if the bile may be too thick, which means it doesn't get all the way down to the lower colon, or it doesn't expel enough. There are also people claim that keto causes gallstones. Keto does not cause gallstones. The gallstones are already there. Keto just made you use your gallbladder a little bit. So, if you know you have gallstones, you probably want to do a little bit of care before you start because it's going to get uncomfortable, which we can do. That is something we can work on. But if you notice your bowel movements have reduced, that you're actually constipated. A lot of times when you reduce your calories as much as people do on the keto diet because they're not hungry, your bowel movements are less and less and less, and they're like, well, I don't feel constipated, I just am not pooping very often. And that can happen just from reduction of calories. But if your bowel movements are decreased and you're feeling constipated, if they're dry, if they're bulky, if they're pebbles, it means you're not getting enough bile to the lower colon. So, don't avoid keto. This is exactly what your body needs. We need to get the gallbladder functioning. We need that liver squeezed out of all of its garbage. So, if you no longer have a gallbladder, you absolutely need support to get into the keto diet. It can still be done. We just do baby steps to get you there. So nobody's pooping their pants. So hair loss is a big one. This is astounding to me, and it is just like it is the women's healthcare issue, right? They don't deal with women's issues, right? Hair loss is a woman's issue. No book talks about hair loss on keto. I guarantee you, everybody on keto has lost hair. Why? Because they're men. And I don't care if they lose hair. But women start pulling chunks of hair out of their head, losing it in the shower. You're going to hear about it. So, a couple different, the one guy, he did say, I guess hair loss, but it's just because you reduce your calories. That's such garbage. I don't even know where he got it. He's, of course, bald, so I don't know why he's even talking about it. So, typical reasons for hair loss. You've eaten too much dairy and you now have parasites. Parasites will take your hair out. Trust me. Hormones. Your hormones are going to stabilize because you're getting control of your blood sugar. So, like, after you have a baby, right, those hormones start to balance again. And then thyroid, because the liver and the thyroid work together. Liver is where we make all of our T4. If the liver is struggling or a little congested, it's going to slow down the thyroid. So all of these things can be supported with supplements. There's no reason to avoid doing the keto. And you do come out of it. Even if you didn't do supplements, you'd lose some hair and be fine. It'll grow back. It's not gone forever. But I started losing my hair and I was like, whoa, this is not cool. But I did too much dairy, so I deserve it. Okay, so the emotional component. This is why a lot of people fail on keto. Eating keto changes your physiology. I have never had anything drastically change my physiology as much as this diet has. So, with the increase of fat, your blood sugar starts to stabilize, and you naturally controls hunger. Like I said before, if you're full on fat and you try to eat carbs, you're not going to feel very good. You're going to feel sick. What it forces you to do, though, you don't want to eat the carbs because it'll make you feel sick, but you really want the carbs. That's your drug. There's something you're trying to drug yourself with the carbs. Then you have to sit with it. And it's icky. I went through about 3 weeks of this, and it was like, what is happening? This sucks. I don't have issues, right? I have blood sugar problems all my life. I have no issues. So it took about 3 have major issues. So if people have major stuff they're working through, this can easily bring it up because you're taking away the drug. So you have to prepare for that. You have to do journaling. You have to do meditation. You can do energy work. Vanna over here is fantastic about helping people through emotional stuff and energy work, and you know, it's a much easier process. She's much more kinder and gentler than I am. But also get out in nature. You know, get your feet in the sand or the grass if it's not negative 24. Find ways to work on that emotional component because it will come up and it will derail you. You'll just eat the carbs because you just don't want to feel it anymore. So, it won't last forever, I promise. Okay, so this also came up, which when I read about this, it was sort of disturbing to me. There's a concept of what's called carb cycling. And this is increasing carbs, and this, especially at night, in an attempt to address side effects of the keto diet. The plateaus, the hormone imbalance, the poor sleep, the hair loss, and definitely the emotions. So, the proponents of carb cycling are kind of giving you an out, right? Because there's no essential carbs, there's no need to have an out. You're not fixing something. And the other idea is that it prevents ketoacidosis. So you just have to get off the gas a little bit and then all the ketones will flush out. I will tell you, it will knock you out of ketosis every time if you carb up. So once we go through all the benefits of ketosis and ketones and you start doing this, understand you're taking a cheat. You're outing yourself. So the studies done took out 2 groups of athletes. So this is in the Ketogenic Bible. They took 2 groups of athletes. One stayed on keto through the whole time. The other did keto during the weekdays and then went back to the American Standard Diet on the weekends. And so this is kind of the idea of carbing up or carb cycling. And what they noticed was the athletes that stayed on keto lost muscle, did not lose any muscle, lost fat, all their things were much better, all their other measurements were better. And the athletes who cycled on and off of keto lost muscle and less fat. And so if you've ever met a CrossFitter, nobody wants to lose muscle. So that was just a little blurb on that. I don't like that concept and I don't want to fall for it. You can take a break, you can be flexible, you know, you can go on vacation, you can have Christmas, right? You know how to get back on it. But don't fool yourself into thinking that periodically every week I get to binge on some carbs and thinking that's a healthy choice. It isn't a healthy choice. I took 3 weeks off, last 2 weeks of December, first week of January, because it was Christmas and my mom did send me cookies. And we were going on vacation. And I'm like, I'm just gonna test the theory, right? But every morning I still did my bulletproof coffee. And I ate the cookies, but I ate the cookies over the course of 3 weeks, not over 3 days. I had 1 instead of 5, right? And even over 3 weeks, I still lost a half a pound. So it's not a rigid, diet, but don't think you can, you know, on and off of it and you're gonna get any of the benefits. So dirty keto is another word out there. So it's a common response to restricting carbs that all the good stuff gets to fill the junk food void. And again, it's the buckets of cheese, it's the McDonald's hamburgers without buns, right? You can't still eat toxic food and expect to not be sick. So you pump yourself full of toxic meat, toxic bacon, and truckloads of cheese, you're gonna get sick. You're gonna get sick in a whole different way. So, you won't have the fat to protect you from the toxins. What the body does is takes the fat and tucks the toxins in the fat to protect you from it. You who lose fat and you pump yourself full of toxins, you're gonna be one sick puppy, and it's probably gonna be something really bad. So, don't do dirty keto. If all you're gonna do is just reduce your carbs a little and increase your fat a little and not worry about ketosis, great. But it doesn't mean you can't do organic. You shouldn't be doing organic, grass-fed, nitrate-free, pasture-raised, all that stuff. You still need your macronutrients. So the leafy greens, the asparagus, cruciferous vegetables, you can do tomatoes and cucumbers and garlic and onions and mushrooms. You do have to stay away from some of the root vegetables. They're really high in carbohydrates, but you can do parsnips. You can do a lot of the green stuff. You just can't do like beets and carrots and that kind of thing. You eventually can do them when you're not so fragile, when you've gotten to your weight goals, when you're in stable ketosis, you could do a little bit more. But when you're in this initial stage, you want to stay away from those foods. They're not bad, but they are higher in carbohydrates. So exercising keto, so the more, this is for the athletes out there, the more intensely you work out, the faster, more efficiently you're going to use the ketones. So if you're doing this every morning and you're getting really frustrated by your ketones going down, but you just did 2 hours on the elliptical the day before, I expect to have less ketones the next morning, right? It's a good thing. You're using them more efficiently, all your muscles are using them, it's a great thing. Don't get frustrated or think you're doing something wrong. And it's also a major factor when people get into plateaus. You start to plateau, to get that exercise, you'll use those ketones more efficiently, you'll start burning fat, and it will pull you into a better place. So results of multiple studies shows athletes on ketones lose fat, maintain muscle mass, they increase the amount of reps they can do, it increases sprint times, improved heart rate variability, which is one of the things we do in the spinal scan. So we know keto diet will actually improve your ability to adapt to stress, and it increases testosterone in men. So that's a big selling point for a lot of men. So plateau. So if your weight loss or ketosis slows or stops, you may have hit a plateau. And this usually happens with people who have really fragile blood sugar issues. So if you're hitting a plateau and you're getting frustrated, you have to look at some other factors. Like I said, you gotta see if you can really tolerate berries or not. If you're hitting a plateau, probably not. Those might be the first thing you pull out. Any fruits, even lemon in your water. You may need to switch from counting net carbs to counting total carbs. Some people who are more sensitive are still sensitive to fiber and not just the carbohydrates. So if you've hit a plateau or you want to go forward faster, start counting total carbs instead of net carbs. Too much psyllium husk, which is higher in fiber. Too much almond flour, same thing. Too many nuts, and then alcohol can be a big factor. And no, you can't have wine, so sorry. And again, just add some exercise, that might get you out of it. So with keto people, often you also hear intermittent fasting. So the first indication that you might be ready for intermittent fasting is you're not hungry at mealtime. Okay, this tells us the blood sugar is stabilizing. So you can introduce this if your weight loss has plateaued, if your blood sugar is stable. If you are hungry, your blood sugar has dropped, you need to eat fat. If you are not hungry, you don't need to eat. Stop eating when you're full. Really easy to do when you're eating a lot of fat. You put one more morsel in there, you're like, oh, don't need that. Really simple. Listen to your body, tune into your body. You will find out very quickly if you're ready for intermittent fasting. People with unstable blood sugars cannot do intermittent fasting as quickly and as long. So that is a healing process. I started doing it the last 2 days and my weight loss was alright. April also pointed out that I'm not sleeping very much to try and get ready for this presentation. That might be a factor as well. But pay attention, listen to your body, listen to your own body. You're not going to fit, nobody is going to fit perfectly in a box. So if you're hungry, don't let your blood sugar drop. But if you are starting to feel strong, you can start to do those big chunks of time in between eating. So you can do 6, 7 hours, 12 hours, whatever works best for you. So we're just going to talk about MCT oil and exogenous ketones because those are very popular when we talk about this. So MCT oil is medium chain triglycerides. It comes in oil or powder. What it does is it takes mainly coconut oil, but they use other oils. It takes the coconut oil down one step. So there's one step less of processing that the body needs to get from dietary fats to the ketones. This seems to be best for weight loss. The oil does tend to cause some GI stress, but that really depends on the person. And if you're a little constipated, you might want a little GI stress to bring things out there. But the powder is supposed to do less of that. So if your main goal is weight loss, you might want to add in MCT oil or powder. I just used it this morning and my tongue feels like garbage. So it's not my friend, evidently. But we did order some powder from one of our supplement lines, so I'm going to try that and see if that has any effect. But guess what I get to do? Tomorrow I get to see if my ketones are up. I get to see if my weight loss has dropped again. I get to test what MCT oil does to me, right? I want to point out, still get your coconut oil in. There is a substance in coconut oil called lauric acid. It's very healing to the brain. It's one of the most important things we can do for our brain. When you do MCT oil, you do not get the lauric acid that's in the coconut oil. So use it some if you want to, but still mix in that coconut oil. Exogenous ketones, from all the studies, it doesn't appear that the exogenous ketones help with weight loss. So if that's your main goal, exogenous ketones are kind of like, meh. Exogenous ketones does tend to help with all the other disorders that we might be using keto diet for. So the brain disorders, autoimmune, and cancers. So that extra ketones in the blood help help that healing, but doesn't tend to offer the weight loss results that MCT oil might offer. So again, I have MCT powder and an exogenous ketone powder coming, just for people to have a good healthy option. I mean, it just stinks out there to go to the health food store and see the rows and rows and rows, and so quality is always very important to me. So we'll have it in the office probably next week. Okay, so these are just some supplement topics that, see they're kind of the main things I use for gallbladder. We do it in order of strength. So if we're getting started, I always want somebody on gallbladder support, just because you are changing how you're eating. You really are digesting more fats. Minerals, so we have a kind of a range of them. And the SpectraLeg is the liquid one, and it's a broad spectrum, and it tastes very salty. And so it's a great one to make sure that you don't get that keto flu. So that would be the one to prevent the keto flu. Or even take really good sea salt, dump it in water, and drink that first thing in the morning too. A lot of people do struggle with removing the carbohydrates, so the blood sugar support kind of helps to reduce that a little bit, but also if you just get your fats up, that goes away pretty quickly. You kind of white knuckle it for a couple of weeks, and then the physiology just takes over. swaps, you know, mashed potatoes, do mashed cauliflower, the noodles, zucchini noodles, instead of potato chips, you can do pork rinds. You know, just some easy swaps if you're starting to freak out a little bit about what am I going to eat. So bulletproof coffee. If you've never made this, this is what I drink every single morning, and then I don't eat till like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon because I'm not hungry. So you can do either coconut oil or MCT oil. You can do butter or ghee, and you do coconut cream or heavy whipping cream. I don't put butter in mine. I just put boatloads of coconut oil and heavy whipping cream. And then I just add some stevia, some cinnamon, some cacao, a little bit of vanilla. It's more like a milkshake than a cup of coffee. But I'm now loaded with like 50 grams of fat right out of the gates. And so it's really easy to stay under 20 grams of net carbs when I'm not hungry. I already got my fat in for the day, and it's just, you know, it's just my husband when I get home at night. It's like, what are we gonna eat? I'm full on fat. I don't know what you're gonna eat. So just some keto meal ideas. Obviously for breakfast, bulletproof coffee. Honestly, if I have bulletproof coffee, I can't really eat any of that other stuff, but some people don't like that. You can also make bulletproof tea. Lunch, Cobb salad, avocado with tuna, sausage, turkey with bacon or lettuce wrap. You know, if you're going for sushi, you can always get sashimi, and that leaves out the rice. So easy. You know, don't be afraid to go out to eat, right? It's not that hard. You just like, all right, where's the carbs in this, and how do I get them to take it out, or what can I order that doesn't have carbs? You know, pick a meat, pick a vegetable, and have a good time. So those are just some ideas, but my gosh, the recipes are just one upon the other. So alcohol, you can still drink alcohol. Tequila, we do tequila with lime seltzer water, so the flavored water is fantastic. I mean, we get really expensive tequilas, so that's fantastic, but that's what we drink because we're not drinking wine, we're not drinking beer, we're not drinking mixed drinks, etc. So you can do vodka with club soda, you can do gin with club soda. They have, if you look up, you know, keto-friendly alcohol, you've got whiskey and rum and bourbon and all in there, but those are all grain. So now you're going back to the grains and you're getting some exposure to gluten. So I tend to steer clear of those. Stick with the clear alcohols. Snacks, macadamia nuts, fat bombs. And then we have good fat bars. So good fat bars, I'm kind of promoting Dr. Darren Schmidt because he was the one that came up with it, and he started the company Good Fat Bars, and we've got 5 or 6 different flavors now, and the keto ones are like 14 grams of fat in this little thing that's about the size of a Reese's cupcake, or Reese's, I don't know, you know what I mean. So they're great to have, like I have them in the car, I have them in my purse, if I'm running late, if I'm going to work out, if I'm whatever. If I get to the end of my day and I'm like, crap, I don't want to eat dinner, I don't want to cook dinner, but I haven't got my fat in and I'm a little bit hungry, I can eat one of those and put some coconut oil and some tea and go to bed. And I'm happy as a clam. So they're super convenient. I know a lot of you love like your certain flavors. Gina was nice enough to cut up a bunch so you can try different flavors if you want to. They just help to be convenient. And the fat bombs, a lot of people report they'll make fat bombs and they're sort of melty. And so those can be harder to transport, but you can certainly make fat bombs at home. And scientists kind of the same idea as having something quick that's a lot of fat that tastes really good and a bit of like a dessert. My favorite is the chocolate salted peanut one. So anyway, you're welcome to try those at the end. You can do meat sticks or jerky. You can do dill pickles. Those are easy snacks to do. Desserts, you can do avocado pudding. You can do chia pudding. There's an olive oil cake that looks amazing. Lemon bars, low carb ice cream, and of course dark chocolate. You just have to look how much sugar is in there. Yeah.
Hi, I'm being from St. Louis, there's something called gooey butter cake.
Gooey butter cake.
So the main ingredient's butter in it, and there's a paleo version that's dairy-free and grain-free. Anyway, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's just high fat, and it's like eating a bit of heaven.
All right.
So definitely Google
What is it? Gooey butter?
gooey butter cake.
Okay, gooey butter cake, everyone.
Yeah.
Nobody hates dessert recipes. Okay, so just to remind you, you are healing, right? The keto diet, you're in a healing state. So please be kind to yourself. You do have to stay hydrated. That's the most important thing. You have to stay grounded. So feet in the grass or the sand, weather permitting. And if you can't get in the grass or the sand, we do have grounding bands out there that you can put on your body and plug into the wall, and that will pull electrons into your system and ground you as if you got to walk on the beach. So it's a great thing to have, especially in this kind of climate when you can't get outside, but it also is really useful for people who have trouble sleeping or trouble relaxing. So those are out there. I think they're $20 for a band and a little tester. So meditation. You don't have to be Deepak Chopra to do meditation. Just sit still. Be still. Take some deep breaths, even if it's just for 5 minutes. There's lots of great apps you can do. There's even the breathing thing on the phone, right? To just remind you to breathe deeply. What that does is it tells your primal brain there's nothing chasing me. And the benefit of telling your primal brain there's nothing chasing me is your cortisol goes down and it stops that vicious cycle, right? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, right? So just being still for 5 minutes and taking deep breaths. If there's a bear chasing you and you're taking deep breaths, you're going to die. So your primal brain knows you're not being chased by a bear if you're taking deep breaths. So if that's all you can do is do that. So sleep, you want to aim for 8 to 10 hours a day. If you need to take naps, take a nap, right? If we all lived in Spain, we would take naps. There's something very wrong with our American life, right? What we do to ourselves, we beat ourselves up, we feel shame if we feel tired, we feel shame if we do this, we feel shame if we do that, right? Right, so try to find ways to rest and listen to your body and rest when you're tired. You want to try to avoid the blue screens, the blue light, that kind of thing. When you're out in the sun, take advantage when the sun does shine here to go outside and put these sunglasses in your pocket. Don't stare directly in the sun, but let the sun hit your retinas. There's something very powerful that it does to your brain when the sun hits the retinas, right? And we wear sunglasses all the time, and we live in this culture or this climate that the sun doesn't shine 90% of the winter. So when it does, get out there. And then exercise. Even a little bit of movement is going to get you, it pumps your lymphatic fluid, right? It helps increase your brain function. It'll help use those ketones more efficiently. So start a little bit. I promise when you get into the keto diet, you're actually going to have more energy. And you're going to want to go hunt. So jump on the elliptical or get on the treadmill or go hunt, do something physical that moves that body, take advantage of the benefits of keto. So a lot of people are like, help me, I don't know what to do. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. If you want to do the complete exam, complete health assessment, that takes about 60 minutes. We do the spinal scan, we do the heart rate variability, which we talked about. We do the body composition. And no, I'm not going to pinch your fat, and you're not going to sit in a tub of water. It's super quick. It takes all of 3 minutes. It's very accurate. We'll do the health history review. We'll do the nutrition EEG scan. We'll review your diet. So if you're struggling, you don't know what to do, or you're getting hung up, we can help review through that. And then we'll tailor a nutritional protocol to you and what your body needs. If you have blood labs, we can review blood labs as well. If you need me to order blood labs, I can do that for you. And then we review every 4 weeks. And then that just goes on as based on your goals. So, anywhere from 6 to 12 months for that. If you just want a smaller version of that, if you want a nutritional visit, it takes about 25 minutes. We'll do the body composition. We'll do the health history review. We'll review the diet. We'll come up with a nutritional protocol. We can do that one every 4 weeks. That one will also check blood labs if you've got them. And then there's just what's called the quick check. Dr. Shaw, I don't know what I did, or I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm not pooping, or whatever. That just takes 5 minutes, or 5-10 minutes. We'll review your diet. We'll go through some supplement recommendations, and then you can just use that one as needed. And you don't have to be in the office. If you want to do it over the phone, we can do that as well. So those are just some options that I offer to help you through this. But I think it's just so awesome that it's one of these things that you can really do yourself. So, but I'm always here if you need me. And April's here if you need to help with the emotional component. I always bring this up. Why is a chiropractor talking about this? I'm a nutrition nerd through and through, but I'm also first a chiropractor. And the reason why we talk about this is because the nervous system is the master system, controls everything, every function in the body. And we live our lives through our nervous system. So what you see, hear, touch, taste, smell, and think all happens through your nervous system. Your heartbeat, your muscle control, your stomach acid, your blood pressure, your moods, your athletic performance, your immune function is all controlled by your nervous system. So, fact one is your body is a living, self-healing, self-regulating entity. The nervous system is the master system and controller of that body. And the conclusion from those two facts is if you interfere with the nervous system function, you will necessarily interfere with the ability for the body to heal and regulate. So, if you can't take care of your nervous system, nothing else is going to work optimally. So these are just some resources, a couple of things a couple of books. Keto Clarity, I think, is the best kind of layman, easy to get through book. He's got an audio book. He reads it himself. I liked it a lot. And then the ketogenic diet is just, it's every study you could ever want, right? And they talk about cancers, and they talk about, so if you're looking for Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or cancer or autoimmune or epilepsy or digestive disorders or whatever, that's the book that has all the research in it, and they really do a great job of talking about it. They just have one. I just went over one. They did a test on rats with tumors, and they put a rat on a regular diet and put him in a hyperbaric chamber. And then they put a rat on the keto diet in the hyperbaric chamber. And then they have the rat just on the diet and the rat on the keto diet. And the rat that was on the keto diet and the hyperbaric chamber, their tumor shrunk the most. And the rat on the regular diet and the hyperbaric chamber was the second worst, right? So the hyperbaric chamber, we know, does amazing things for cancer. But if the physiology isn't there to boost it, right? And when you can boost it with the physiology and then pop in that hyperbaric chamber, wow, right? So a lot of these things when we're dealing with degenerative disease, cancers, brain disorders, when you start to stack things on top of each other, that's when you get magic. It's not one thing. One thing never has cured anything, right? Getting the diet, getting the high intensity oxygen, getting the emotional work, getting your nervous system functioning, getting your cranial system, pumping, right? All these things stacked up on top of each other is when we start to see the really cool stuff happen. So, Anyway, Charlie Foundation's up there. Elena's Pantry's always been my favorite. She's a whiz. But she does everything. She does keto, and she does dairy-free, and she does gluten-free, and she does paleo, and she does every single diet. And she's got a cool story. She has MS, and she's healed herself with the diet.
Is she the one that's on the paleo way?
I don't know if she's on. I've only seen 2 of those episodes, so I don't know if she is. But on Netflix, again, the Magic Pills, really cool stuff. And then there's a new series called The Paleo Way, and that's amazing, especially those first 2 or 3 episodes. They really get into keto and kind of the docs on the cutting edge, or the bloggers, or the people on the cutting edge of degenerative disease and autoimmune, and how they're cooking. And then the 2 books, like I said, Keto Clarity and the Ketogenic Diet, are great resources. There's a lot of great books out there. I think I read 4 total, but each one had a little bit of, oh, it's not, no. And then this one had like, oh yeah, like good, oh gee, you just stepped in it, right? So it's hard to find one. It's hard to find the, Keto Clarity one is the guy who says, you'll only lose your hair because you reduced your calories, right? There's the bald guy. So, that was the only thing in his book that. sorry, that's that was the only thing I didn't like in his book. But I wanted to give you the science so you can look at these books and say, okay, well, I don't agree with 100%, but they got great recipes, or they've got, I like this piece, or I like how they talked about that. So, and then, ways to stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. We'll have this on YouTube probably when my niece comes home from college, but it is up there on our YouTube channel where we have breast health and we have thyroid already up there. So this one will be up there soon. And then the new website's coming in the next month or 2. The blog will get more active, and then if you want to sign up for our newsletters, we're going to be doing those once a month with just different things for us. So, any questions? No? I'm so good. Nobody has any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
With eating, if you're increasing your meat intake, and even if you're eating good grass-fed meat, is there any concern for the hormones you're getting from the animals?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Don't fool yourself, right? Like I said, you have to eat organic. You have to eat, you have to eat quality. You have to eat like they eat in New Zealand and Italy and France, and where they're snobby about their food and they don't allow this stuff to happen, right? This is why we're sick. We're not gluten intolerant or Roundup intolerant. We don't have hormonal problems. We're eating meat with hormones pumped in it. We don't have, if we just look at what's in the water, why don't you drink tap water? Because I don't want any more Prozac and birth control. That's what I'm getting in the water, right? You distill water, you're gonna lose all your minerals. Yeah, well, I'll take minerals. I don't want the only way to get the drugs out of the water is to distill it or reverse osmosis. So, that's your choice because it's so toxic. And, I think about Flint. That's my home state, right? That's an hour from where I grew up. If those people would have been distilling or reverse osmosis in their water, those kids wouldn't have the neurological issues because the state screwed up their water source, right? You don't know what's coming through those pipes. You really don't. And it almost feels, I think, overwhelming to people to think, my God, one more thing, right? Oh God, what now? That's what I get a lot. Mostly from family. Oh God, what now? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to be sick. I don't want to have Alzheimer's. I got a long life ahead of me, and I don't want to be sick, and I don't want to see the world. So, yeah, what now? So what? I have a distiller on my countertop and push a button and it magically makes water. Is that so terrible? Right? We have to get out of this idea that we don't have to work for health. Right? It's not just going to be delivered to us. if I could move to New Zealand or Scotland, or not Scotland, no, Scotland. If I could move to New Zealand or Italy or France, right? And I could have chickens and live in the fields and, right? You're right, I would drink the water, but I don't. I live here and I don't know where it's coming from and I don't know what's in it, and so I just have to be my own advocate. So, I don't want cancer. I don't want heart disease. I don't want Alzheimer's. I don't want digestive issues. So, you know, we all make our choices.
You're gonna come back, aren't you, from New Zealand?
Well, April's gonna have my dog, so I have to. Yes, I'm coming back. No, I mean, no. I got so much more to say than, you know. No, this is, I choose to advocate in this toxic world for people who don't have the resources to get out. Probably, if we pooled all our money, I could get a little hut on an island in New Zealand, right? But it's accepting what is and moving forward. And you know, I can't just go hide in a cave and drink natural spring water and not know the world is burning. That's just not how I'm built. Otherwise, I wouldn't bother getting into this profession in the first place. And I certainly wouldn't bother getting into nutrition. I mean, the stories you hear and the disease states that people are in and the sickness that they have endured, it will break your heart. But when you're the lone, you know, when you have to slog through it, I just choose to. As my husband said, I was not built to work for somebody else. So I have a type of personality that I have to run my own show, and I have to do it with integrity, and I have to fight, and I'm a fighter, and I just choose that. So, you know, not everybody likes my style, but our lovely chef in the back, Malia, has pulled together 5 of her most favorite recipes, and then we printed off a few more that I found, a couple on the Charlie Foundation, that just might help bring a smile to your face if you're feeling a little low about your keto diet. So there's 10 of them, so if you're sharing households, please just take one. You're welcome to do that. If you want to check out the keto meter, it's up here. You're welcome to do that as well. And you're welcome to try those good fat bars if you'd like. Thanks for coming. Thank you.